When you think of an alcoholic, what comes to your mind? Well, I'll tell you what comes to my mind. I think of maybe somebody homeless, somebody unshaven, somebody with long hair, dirty clothes, somebody that's drinking super cheap cider that's like $2 a bottle, someone that's begging on the street just to get their next drink. But is that really the case? Would you picture a successful businessman with 100 employees? Would you picture an athlete? Would you picture a loving parent that has an amazing family and goes to church? Well, more often than not, we wouldn't picture somebody like that. But the typical idea that we have of what an alcoholic is very almost far-fetched. What we're really looking at is like this bottom 1% of alcoholics, the people who have gone so far that there's no question about it. But how can you tell if you're an alcoholic? How can you tell if you're an alcoholic for real? Today I'm going to show you my journey of discovering what it meant to be an alcoholic, if I am an alcoholic, how I fixed my drinking problem. And I'm also going to show you how you can test if you're one as well. But this isn't going to be like an AA test or anything like that. And very quickly, if you want instant access to a brand new video training that I've just finished showing you how to control alcohol in as little as 48 hours, then click the link in the description. This new method is not about using willpower therapy or AA meetings. It's totally different. I do not publish this video anywhere else online and it's already changing thousands of lives. So click the link below for instant access. Once you're on the next page, enter your name and email address and your free training will begin. It takes just 7 minutes to watch, but it'll feel like somebody flicks a switch in your brain. And honestly, I'm not sure when I'll start charging for this 7-minute video training. That's how good it is. But whilst it's still available, click the link below, enter your name and email address and watch that video now. So the first thing I want to do, actually, I can't go in the sun. That is hot. I need to stay in the shade. So a little bit of backstory is I'm 32 years of age. I've not drank for almost 7 years. I stopped drinking when I was like 25 because alcohol was just destroying my life. Now, when I first wanted to get off drinking, stop drugs, I didn't know what to do, right? I mean, there were no videos like Sober Leon videos back then. I don't know if there were any books. I couldn't find any books. I didn't know what to do. So I asked my family. I said, Mum, I want to stop drinking. I want to stop smoking weed. I want to stop doing all this stupid stuff. What do I do? Now, my mum at this point had been to AA. She's now been for way over 20 years. At this point, it might have been going for 18 years or something like that. And because of drink and because of drugs, I actually left home at 17 years of age. And pretty tragic, but that's the kind of stuff that happened to me when I was when I was drinking. And I remember, life had just got really bad. And I don't want to share the story. I just hate sharing the story. But I'm not going to name it because it's not really fair. But I went to live with a family member, and when I lived with this family member, I drank more than ever. They gave me my first line of cocaine. I mean, it was pretty tragic. And I remember, hadn't had like the best relationship with my mum and my stepdad. And I remember calling my mum up, and I was like, I want to come home. And I want to stop this lifestyle. I've had enough. And she said, if you go to meetings and you get sober, you can stay at home again. And to me, when I was maybe 18 or 19, I was like, oh my God, yes. So I did it, right? And my mum's found success with Alcoholics Anonymous. My mum is an alcoholic in her mind. She does a 12-step program and she's not drank for 20 plus years. Program saved her life. As a result of that, my upbringing was fantastic up until about 17, right? But, I had a very nice house, lived in a really good neighborhood. It was very safe. So I did have a pretty privileged upbringing. So Alcoholics Anonymous, to me, has had so much impact on my life, probably more so than the people that stopped drinking with it, because I've been almost like the consequence of somebody who stopped drinking with Alcoholics Anonymous, right? So I am not here to slate that program, but we'll get to my problems with it in a second. You'll see where this is going. But she encouraged me to go to these meetings, right? And I did smoke a lot of weed back then, and I was also like sniffing drugs as well. And listen, I don't talk about this too much on the channel because as I got older, the problem became alcohol, right? I almost felt like the drugs and stuff was like a phase that I went through when I was a teenager. But then when it came to alcohol, that's when things got really bad. And that's when I drink and then sometimes take drugs as well. But it was always alcohol that was the problem. So I don't really talk too much about this, but for this video, I'll tell you about it. So she said, go to these meetings, right? So I remember I go to my very first meeting, and I go to this meeting, and there was maybe 7 or 8 people there. It was a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, so this was for drug addicts, right? And I go there, and I remember the guy he did this thing called a main share, and a main share is where basically somebody tells you their story of how bad things used to be. And then in the second half of the meeting, then everybody starts introducing themselves. They'll be like, my name's Gary, I'm an addict, and blah, blah, blah. And then in Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm John and I'm an alcoholic, blah, blah, blah. And I went to some NA meetings and then I started reading this book And then I started listening to all these people, and everybody's got the same story, right? They're all there because they drank too much or took too many drugs, all to varying different degrees. But I kept hearing these stories, and I thought, well, hang on. I must be one as well. I must be one of these people as well. And you don't want to feel left out. So I started giving myself this label, right? I started saying, okay, I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, that's what I am. And I carried this label for 90 days. And I think that's how long I got my first big sober stretch. And that's a great thing. That was the first time I stopped drinking for 90 days. So I found some success in that program. Not here to slate it. But then I did find some problems later on. I knew a few people that died through relapses in that program. And then I started doing a little bit of research into, AA and this word alcoholic. And I've done a lot more research in it now. But, what I started realizing is that words are powerful. They're freaking powerful. And if I'm to call myself an alcoholic and I do drink again, am I going to drink 2 drinks? Or am I going to remind myself of all the stuff I got told in AA and am I going to go insane? Am I going to drink a bottle of vodka? Well, to me, I think I'm going to go on the bottle of vodka route because it's almost like I've got this excuse. It's almost like now I believe that I truly have a problem. Does that make sense? So after I started having these realizations and these moments of wait a minute, I just stopped going. And, I stopped going. I did drink and party again, I'm not going to lie. But then I remember I did have this day where I wanted to go back to a meeting. I can't remember why, probably some massive hangover. And I just remember walking out of that meeting and this guy chased me out of the meeting. He was actually a really nice guy until I decided to leave. And he chased me down and he was like, Leon, you got a fucking disease. If you go back out there, you're going to die. Jeez. Okay. Well, that was completely incorrect. Actually, I'm absolutely fine. I've not drank for 7 years and I'm living the life of my dreams. Anyway, not here to prove him wrong or anything like that. I'm sure he had the best intentions. I'm sure his heart was pure. I'm sure he genuinely wanted to help me. But where am I even going with this? I speak to a lot of people and they say to me a lot of the times oh, I'm a functioning alcoholic. And we never really question this term. And I think it gets misused a lot. I had a drinking problem. I had a big drinking problem. In fact, I had a massive drinking problem. But I want to be clear about this. So here's where I'm going. So there is a difference between having a drinking problem and being somebody who is an alcoholic. If I have a drinking problem, right, that's a problem I can fix. If I'm an alcoholic, I can never fix that because you have it for the rest of your life. So to be clear here, the word alcoholic is a made-up term. It's a self-help term that comes from AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. No doctor will ever call you an alcoholic. If you actually go on the website and do the criteria of to find out whether or not you're an alcoholic, I mean, probably most drinkers, probably 80% of drinkers are going to go through that and they'll be told you might be an alcoholic. So the criteria is very loose and no doctor will ever give you this medical diagnosis. There's actually a book, I think it's the NACSM, where they give you 11 questions. And if you have that, then there's a high likelihood that you have a certain level of severity of alcohol use disorder. So do you see the difference here is I had a drinking problem, but I wasn't the problem. Because if I was the problem, I can never be fixed. And technically, the only fix to being an alcoholic is to go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. That's what they say. You've got no known cure. The only solution is the 12 steps. You've got to go to these meetings for the rest of your life and recruit new members, which is a little bit cult-like as well. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little bit cult-like. But hey, I'm not here to criticize that program. If that program works for you, I am so happy for you because maybe you go and build a great life for your family. And, I'm so blessed to have AA in my mum's life, right? So going back to this thing of, are you an alcoholic? Well, I've got a better question for you. Who gives shit? Who gives shit if you are? And I'm not being mean. I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that. But what are we trying to do here? A lot of people, when they say, I'm a functioning alcoholic, or, I hear it a lot as well, I'm not, I've probably spoke to 2,500 people, by the way, who have got a drinking problem. I've had in-depth conversations with them, plus the hundreds of videos I've made, and the tens of thousands of messages and emails. I hear it a lot of the times Leon, I'm not an alcoholic. And I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we trying to justify? Well, I'm not as bad as him. I'm not as bad as her. It's not like I can't hold down a job. It's not like I don't, I'm a very fit and healthy. This is another one I hear. I'm a very fit and healthy person. I go to the gym. I eat well. I just drink a bottle of poison a night, but I'm so healthy. I mean, what are we doing here? Are we just trying to compare ourselves to everybody else? And it's pointless, right? It's just a pointless question to ask yourself whether or not you're an alcoholic, because what you're trying to say is it's almost like when I'm that bad, then I'll stop drinking. All you need to do is ask yourself this: is alcohol causing problems in your life, and do you want to change? That's all that matters. And what we need to do is we need to separate the identity that we're the problem with the problem itself. Because once we can, distinguish the two and we can attack the drinking problem, we can attack alcohol, then it becomes a fixable problem like any other problem, right? We don't see people who have stopped smoking call themselves nicotineaholics for the rest of their life. do we? We don't see, I don't know, people who have got gluten intolerance call themselves glutenaholics for the rest of their lives, do we? They don't walk past croissants and beg God to help them and have to go and do a 12-step program and make amendments to people so they don't eat a freaking croissant. See, we need to stop asking ourselves whether or not we think we're an alcoholic, but we do need to get real with ourselves and ask ourselves, do we have a drinking problem? And the likelihood is no offense, but if you've watched this video this far and these stories are resonating and you're thinking, oh, maybe this guy's making sense, maybe you do have a problem. But that's not for me to say, right? That's for you to say. But I want to say this. If you want help, right? If you want help stopping drinking alcohol, you want to do it with a new method, which is called first principles thinking, which is all about reframing how you view alcohol. You want it to work quickly. My method works in as little as 48 hours. And there's no ongoing meetings for the rest of your life, no frigging recruiting new members, none of that. And you want to do it now. Right, you know you want to change. I am accepting new clients right now in my Sober Clear program. Who we work with are high-level business owners, high-level professionals, ambitious, motivated people who want more for their life. We don't work with pessimistic people who are just, bummed out. They can't be bothered with life anymore. They just want to sit around and watch Netflix and not drink. We don't work with people like that. No offense if that's you. Just watch the free videos. That'll be good enough. But if you want to see if my program could work for you, we offer free roadmap calls. These are short 30-minute phone calls where we'll learn a bit about your situation. We'll really just talk about a plan for you in your life and how you can get your drinking under control. Then you can either follow that plan alone. If you want to work together, then we'll make you an offer to work together. That's it. Very simple. We've worked with almost 500 clients, 92 to 97% success rate. I mean, if you're serious about change, there's pretty much nothing else out there that compares to. So if you want to see if there's space on the calendar, click the link down below, book one of those calls. Speak to you soon.